Reviewing match round 28. What a dynamic duo on the couch today. Darren Lewis and Tim Sherwood. Great to see you both. Just looking at that reminded me of the epic battles we've seen between Manchester United and Arsenal in the past. What are some of your best moments, if not games?
Oh, my best moment was the Keane Vieira in the tunnel. It's incredible. You know why, Jules? You'll never see that ever again. You know, it's 20 years ago. It was 2005 when that happened. But that sort of intensity and hate and desire for your team. Look, Graham Poll, the referee there, he's trying to intervene. I mean, he's gone. Look at Keane's eyes. I mean, I've been up against these two guys, you know, around this sort of time. I've had the battles with them, and I know how intense it could be. And he's saying to him, just no more in here. Let's take it out there.
It's interesting.
And normally you get a player saying, I'll see you in there.
Oh, yeah.
But Keane's saying, I'll see you out there, and we'll sort it out. Incredible, iconic moment for the Premier League.
It's interesting because the referee can't actually do anything about what they're saying at all, really. There is nothing to say that either player should be censured for actually saying to each other, let's have it, you know. And I think Graham Poll knew that. He couldn't contain those two players.
This is your moment.
Over Mars, March 1998. Skill personified, and a classy player, a classy performance, a classy team put together by Arsene Wenger, and obviously they went on to win the title that season. Tim is right. We will never see this vintage of Arsenal, Man United, nowhere near that vintage.
Is that because of the fact that they're not challenging each other for titles anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it's all about. But even when we were challenging for titles with Man United, it was almost Arsenal come and took over. They were the team. And when I was in Blackburn still, when that game was at Old Trafford, I was hoping that our games didn't coincide with theirs so I could go to that football match. Now, for a player of another team to want to go and watch that rivalry is something. And that's exactly where I was. I mean, there's so many goals there, what I've seen. And I saw them live because I wanted to be at that football match and that game. And we're a million miles away from that now. And it's not any fault of Arsenal. It's just, unfortunately, Man United are on the decline.
Yeah, they've given us so many memorable moments, these two. And it is a huge game at Old Trafford as Arsenal go to Manchester United in what will be Mikel Arteta's 200th game in charge of the club. The Arsenal boss has been discussing Sunday's opponents.
The players that I have, the coach that I have, and watching the game last night against Real Sociedad, you come very clear that they are very capable to put a really strong performance and beat you on the day. So we know that, we know the difficulty of the match, and that's how we prepared.
200 up for you. The top three, maybe as you sit here now, moments so far, and have you got another 200 in you?
It's gone fast. Probably the number one is with the day that I was sitting here on the first day, just fulfilling that dream of one day becoming the manager of this incredible football club. And then there are many others, but the other night was up there with one of the best because of the way we did it.
There's two, I want a third.
A trophy, for sure. When we won the first FA Cup after everything we went through as a club the last few years and the COVID period, which was really difficult as well.
200 more?
Win tomorrow. This is in this industry what happens, and try our best. I have a lot of energy still and very driven to have more success.
200 games up for Mikel Arteta. How do we judge his time so far?
He's looking well, isn't he? I mean, let's get that out of the way. I mean, 200 games in the Premier League and he looks like that. I mean, he still looks like he could play. I'm not sure if he's getting a little bit of help here and there, but he looks absolutely magnificent. I think he's shown progression, I really do. Okay. Obviously, the disappointment this year is that Man City are not there, so the Arsenal fans, I was going to say Tottenham there, they wish. The Arsenal fans just felt it was just going to be them. You know, they would step into the shoes. They didn't. No one counted for Liverpool coming like they have, you know, with a new manager. But I just say, I heard Ruben Amorim talking about he won't get the sort of time what Mikel Arteta's had, but you have to earn that time. You know, in his first season, he won the FA Cup. That gives you a little bit of leeway. But I think gradually and they're challenging every single year. So for me, stick with him. And it's only a matter of time before they start winning Premier League.
See, when I said, how do you judge his 200 games, I did not mean physical appearance. So
I
let
know.
me rephrase the question.
I know, but
Darren.
looking at him, I just felt we had to mention him. He looks absolutely magnificent.
does
And
look
I've been in that
$1 million.
seat. I mean, look at me now. I mean, I'm like about 100. I mean, it ages you. It is a tough job, but he looks like he's getting younger. Benjamin Button.
I don't know where to start with that. Darren, how do you judge his 200 games?
Fantastic. He's come in, he's changed the culture, he's brought down the age range, they've scored goals, they've been meticulous in their planning, he's got rid of the underachieving stars who thought the club owed them a living, and he's brought in players who are hungry for the shirt, hungry to be better, hungry to achieve things. And if you think about where they are now and where they were, struggling to get into the top 4, now they are in a completely different planet.
I think just been let down, possibly. Edu was a good partnership with Arteta. I think they need to fill them shoes. He's been let down by recruitment, I would say, especially it's been highlighted this year. Glaringly obvious.
Do you think so? Because and you know, as somebody who has worked in that area, I think he took a gamble last summer. I think he thought to himself, we scored 5 goals fewer than the champions last season, so we can do that. Titles are generally won by the team with the best defence.
Yeah.
They still do have the best defence, but obviously they don't have that striker.
Yeah.
So he went for Marino instead of the striker. And I don't think it was the defence that was a problem. I think it was that signing of Marino instead of maybe an investment in Tony. Maybe he could have gone for a Watkins. I don't know. But I think it's not buying a striker that cost him.
Yeah, my argument would be, what sort of strikers was he being offered? And why haven't they highlighted Isak, for instance, before he goes to Newcastle? The recruitment have to be ahead of time. If you're not the richest club in the league, and I'm not saying they're poor, of course they're not, and they could just save their money. They wanted Marino, they felt like they needed another midfield player, but they should have gone out and got a centre forward as well. Yeah. I know it's obvious now, and it's hindsight, and the injury problems we didn't foresee, to crippling injury problems to offensive players, especially Saka, who's a little superstar. But their academy is still so vibrant, brilliant. Wanyeri, Lewis Skelly, magnificent. Hopefully, they've got a little centre forward in their academy, and it might save them 100 million. Yeah. And you just never know. But I think if you, in hindsight, when you look, and I know it's obvious, they need a centre forward, but they've needed one for 2 or 3 years now. And I think the recruitment might have pushed the boat out to go and get it for him, whoever it may be. But perhaps the ones they've been offered, Darren, are not at the level where he thinks they're going to improve them. So he's kept his powder dry.
Yeah, and obviously, as you mentioned, that bad luck with just a number of offensive players being injured at the same time. Yeah. So now that is glaringly obvious, that missing that, clinical forward. They haven't scored in 2 Premier League games. Then in midweek, they scored 7 in the Champions League. You might talk about the quality of the defence, of the opposition, but what was it about the way Odegaard and Rice played that perhaps helped them score those goals, do you think?
Well, you're a midfielder, so I probably should hand over to you.
Well, I watched the game, and I thought Marino played very, very well. I was watching his movement. He occupied the 2 centre-backs, even if he wasn't coming to the ball. I think Mikel has obviously told him, you're a huge man, big in size, stretch him back way. So he opened up that space for him. And what PSV got wrong is they just retreated. There was no pressure on high up the field. So they recognised that straight away. So it was almost Declan Rice playing as 2 old-fashioned number 9s. So Declan played up with him, and Odegaard was making runs from deep as well. And obviously you got the likes of Wanyeri in there. I thought Thomas Partey helped him out because he was the one defensive midfield player, and the rest of them just bombed forward and had a field day there. It was a golfing quality between the Premier League and the Eredivisie, unfortunately. And it was glaringly obvious, and now they're in the quarterfinal of the Champions League, because it's impossible to turn 7-1 deficit around.
In terms of the title race, though, I mean, they could be 16 points behind by the time they kick off at Old Trafford. It's done for them. I know Mikel, I know they will never say it. They can't, but...
No, they can't. He can't. And I fought shy for a long time of saying it's done, but I think Liverpool have got a chance to play one of the worst teams in the Premier League tomorrow, with respect to them, obviously, but statistically they are one of the worst. And Arsenal are counting the cost of, as Tim says, not having a striker, because you think about the games where they created chance after chance, and ironically they were not able to take them. This league is a level up in class from the Eredivisie. I'm amazed Peter Bosz is still in a job at PSV after that beating the other day. It's here against the teams in this division, against the organisation of the teams lower down the Premier League, who are still able to set up and frustrate and deny and keep you at arm's length. That's what the problem is. They are fortunate with Man United because they're unbeaten in 9 away trips to Old Trafford, and United are all over the place at the moment. So I could see them going there and winning, but I don't think they're going to catch Liverpool.
In a period that's had trouble, that's had injury problems, their weaknesses exposed, Ethan Ranieri's been outstanding. You've mentioned him twice already. I know if you Google his name, you'll find Tim Sherwood says he's the next
In fact,
big
if
star.
you mention him again, you get to keep him.
I wish I could have him. I mean, he's just an incredible talent. At such a young age, 17 years of age. I don't know what I was doing then. I know I made my debut at 18, but...
But why are you surprised? You gave Harry Kane, debut at 16? You were playing players at the academy at Spurs?
But I did, yeah. I'm a firm believer, if they're good enough, throw him in straight away.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like all this rubbish where they're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Put him in. I mean, physically, they're ready, some of these boys. Lewis Skelly, especially. Have you seen the size of him? I mean, he's not getting bullied by anyone, by the way. He's got that personality to put his chest out as well and stand up for himself. But that boy is a superstar. And 100% they should be in the England squad, both of them players.
Yeah.
Really? Would you
Skelly
put them in
and
that early?
I would put him in.
Shouldn't you wait?
I would not hesitate. Wait for what? Wait for them to have a dip in form and then not put him in again. Is he our best, without Saka, is he our best right-sided player at the moment? You'd have to say, even with all the quality there is, he's playing better than Cole Palmer at the moment. I love Cole Palmer. I think he's a game changer, but he's certainly...
Would you put him there ahead of Jared Bowen?
I probably would. I like Jared. I like Jared, but I think this boy is just special, and in international football as well. I mean, he's just got that. I like Jared because he's a very, very good, excellent Premier League player. I think this boy's got something a little bit special. I'm not going early on him. I'm just looking at what I've seen, the qualities, what he has, the way he manipulates and touches the ball, and the presence and the confidence of the personality of him. I think he's everything, and for me, he's a superstar in the making.
They're calling him a generational talent. But it's a huge game for both clubs. And this week we sat down with Ruben Amorim to talk about how his United team are progressing.
Ruben, first of all, how do you think it's going?
It's another miserable 45 minutes for Manchester United.
As Tottenham beat Manchester United home and away in the league for the first time in over 35 years.
It is a horrible, horrible start for Manchester United.
In terms of results, it's bad. But the good things is that we are learning a lot. We are changing a lot of things that you cannot see it. But here in Carrington, the way we want to do things, I'm understanding the players and doing in my head what is the future of the squad. And that can be really important next year. But the present is really hard in the moment because the results and the performance are not there.
How much of an example do you think Arsenal are to Manchester United of the journey that they've been on and the one that you're on at the moment?
First of all, different clubs, different expectation, but similar moments. And of course, you have to believe it. When you are in the dark, in this moment, you have to believe it. I know that people are talking. It's normal with the results and the performance. Talk about they make the math even to sack the coach. I'm not worried about that.
Does it hurt you though, Ruben, this early?
No, because I think it's fair. When it's fair, and I don't take the critics personally. And when you don't have the performance and the results to back you up, you have to handle the critics. The most important thing is to believe on what you're doing, and I believe. So I will do the same things, and I think I deal quite well with the critics. In connection with your answer, I think I have to focus not just what Arsenal did, but mostly the confidence that Arteta always showed. Yeah. And it was always tough, and I know that I'm living that, and that is really hard for maybe 2 years, and that is really hard, and I think I can do the same.
Yeah, that opening answer, which was just a sigh, probably said more than he ever could have said he had used 1,000 words, Darren.
Do you know, it's interesting with Amorim. I will never I remember when he arrived and I was on this show and I said to you how I was really excited about his arrival. I thought he's got charisma, he's got capability. We saw what he did with Sporting, and we thought this guy's going to absolutely transform Old Trafford. How wrong we were. He's been brilliant off the pitch, charismatic, engaging, but on the pitch they've been awful. 3 clean sheets in the last 24. No win against a top 8 side at home this season. 39 goals conceded. They are all over the place. And the reason for that, and I deferred to Tim, but you know, he's sticking with one system. Now, if you're that good a manager, you have to be a pragmatist. You wait until you get your players and you go to a system that got Ruud van Nistelrooy 3 wins out of 4 before you arrived. I think what he's doing now is leaving Manchester United in a position where they are one of the easiest teams in the Premier League to beat. Now, I'll say this very quickly. I'm in the newspapers. I help to run a newspaper. I will never, ever come on the show and say that people should not speak. I'm in the information business. You know me. I used to be at your press conferences. I'm loving the fact that he is as open as he is, but it is proving to be his undoing.
Is he one of the best in front of the camera you've ever seen?
Absolutely.
Under the pressure of managing a huge club like Manchester United and having such a bad time, I think he's incredible.
Yeah.
And the worry is, he's such a good talker. Is that I worry when they interviewed the guy, is he such a good talker that he baffled them into giving him the job? I know what he done at Sporting was good. It was good, but it's a completely different level to the Premier League. So sometimes when they're interviewing, they're so good in the interview process that the job is just given to him because he talks so well. For me, he talks brilliantly. I agree. I think he's got charisma. I still think he's got charisma. But eventually, in the end of the day, you need to win football matches and you need to win them at Manchester United. You need to win them quick. He disarms anyone who asks him a question because sometimes you get tiptoed. I've been a manager and you come to interview me, Darren, and you ask me a couple of easy ones to hit me with a hard one. Straight away, he just tells the reporter how bad the team is, how bad the club is. He just disarms them. They don't have to tiptoe around him. There's nothing more degrading they can ask him than what he's already telling them himself. So he's very clever with it. But ultimately, forget the system and everything. He needs to win football matches. No matter how he's going to win them, there's this notion where he believes that the notion is that if he changes his system, it's against every principle. It's not. Let's look at Arne Slot at the moment. One of the best manager in the Premier League at the moment. It has to be. He changes from game to game. He changes. Now Ruben Amorim don't want to do it. It's his prerogative not to do it. But if you're not winning a football match, unfortunately, you're going to go and get another job very, very soon if you don't start winning.
So what does that do for you? Do you have more respect for him because he's sticking to his system, he's sticking to his principles, or?
I think he's wrong. Okay. I think he's wrong. It's up to him, though. It's, like I say, he's the man in the job. It's his head on the block. He's the one who's going to get relieved of his duties. But for me, I think you need to adapt. You need to adapt to what you have in the building and make them better.
You mentioned Liverpool. Right? Liverpool looked at Amorim before they went for Slot. Imagine if he had done what he's doing in Manchester United with Liverpool, where he's trying to fit square pegs into round holes because it worked for him at his previous club. Slot has gone in and he's had the humility to say, these are outstanding footballers who've done superbly well under the former manager. I am going to play to their strengths. I look at what Amorim has done with the Manchester United players and they look as though they're bereft of confidence. And the problem with Amorim now is that other teams will look at them and see that they are there for the taking because they can't score goals. They rely so heavily on Bruno Fernandes. Ahmad, who dug them out of holes against Southampton and a couple of teams, he's now out for the rest of the season. So you think to yourself, well, what is the positive from this side? There isn't one.
I think he's getting he's getting it easy at the moment. I know he's getting some criticism, but I think he's getting it a little bit easy because he is a good talker. And where I've given him some leeway just to say, do you know what? The players, he's inherited these players and they can't play his way. I don't buy into that. You have to, even if you want to play free at the back, you have to find a way with the personnel you have in the squad to do better than what you're doing at the moment. There's absolutely no identity because when does he start taking responsibility for the result? It's not like the government. The government moves in now and they blame the old regime. You can't keep blaming the old regime. Sooner or later, you have to start turning it around yourself. It's different. If you're in a pyramid system, what we have here in the UK, when you're in League Two and League One, players can only play one way. When you're a 50, 70, 100 million pound player, you can adapt to play different ways, but it's up to the skill of the manager to organise you and get some patterns going forward. I don't see any patterns. I really don't. In Portugal, you can learn on the job. You can do it as you're playing games. In the Premier League, you don't allow us to do that because the competitive nature of the league is so great.
Darren, you used a term there, bereft of confidence. Is Rasmus Hojlund the poster child for that at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see that there's a lot of effort there, but it's not going his way. He's missing chance after chance. Very often he's missing easy chances, and as Tim will tell you, you've got to put an arm around a shoulder and maybe keep playing players like that. But I think the price tag, £72 million, the lack of return for that investment, I've said many times, I think that he should have been at a Tottenham and Aston Villa, a mid-ranking side before you get a Manchester United. We started the show with Arsenal back in the day. Back in those days, he probably maybe would have got in their reserves, maybe their development squad, but he would not have got anywhere near the Manchester United sides, plural, that we saw at the start of the show. But the decline of Manchester United is such that they are spending huge amounts of money on players who have done nothing in the game, and then everyone's expressing surprise that they can't perform.
Not only doing nothing in the game, no one else wanted him. You talked about Villa and Tottenham there. They didn't want him.
No, and they certainly wouldn't have paid 72 million.
72 million. You expect 72 million, which is overpaid for a young player. There will be other clubs in the fight for him. That's why you have to play over the odds. At the moment, it's not. I don't see it. I don't see it with him. I know he tries, he runs around, but it's Man United. Come on, I could try and run around. Don't mean I'm a Man United player. I don't see it. I just don't think he's the future. Yeah.